Well, Othel, as we noted, Vice President Mike Pence right now in South Korea, perhaps because of that, is one reason experts say Pyongyang may have launched that missile. The provocations, as you know, keep coming despite years of negotiations, sanctions, and threats. So, what can be done to try and rein in Kim Jong-un and his belligerent and dangerous regime? Ambassador John Bolton joins us, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Fox News contributor, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and chairman of the Gatestone Institute here in New York. Ambassador, do you think after all these years that China has finally gotten the hint? Do you see a change or some shift in Beijing?
Well, it's possible, given the number of steps that China has taken, especially after the meeting between President Trump and President Xi Jinping in Florida. However, China and North Korea have shifted what they do visibly on any number of occasions in the last 25 years when public outrage in the United States, Japan, or elsewhere grew to an extent where they felt they had to pull back. So at this point, it's too early to tell whether there's a real change in China's view of how to deal with North Korea's nuclear weapons program, or whether it's simply saying, particularly to Kim Jong-un, lower the propaganda, put a sock in it, basically, until those notoriously short attention spanned Americans go away again.
So we launched the missile. That didn't work, but they still have not conducted the sixth nuclear test. Do you think that'll come?
Well, I think it could come at any time. Honestly, the North Koreans have at least some idea when our overhead is taking pictures, and I think in the run-up to the birthday yesterday, there may have been a little teasing going on. Who knows? Our intelligence about a lot of this nuclear activity inside North Korea is very sparse, very sketchy. So it could come at any moment. It could be another 6 months. We just don't know.
So, and meanwhile, what has changed, during the Clinton administration, they negotiated that deal that failed, oil for food, back in 1994. George W. Bush, as president, took them off the state-sanctioned list of terrorist countries. So what do you suggest the Trump administration do now, especially considering the fact that the Carl Vinson, the battle group, is off the peninsula shores?
Well, it's fine to ramp up economic pressure against the regime, but let's be clear, the North Korean regime views the nuclear weapons capability as tantamount to regime survival. When we say to them, give up your nuclear weapons, what they hear is step down from power. And they're never going to do that. They're not going to give up their nuclear weapons and ballistic missile programs voluntarily. That's why the role of China is so important. If China is really determined to do what it has said publicly for 20-plus years, and that is it doesn't want a North Korean nuclear weapon, that'd be fine. Again, the problem is China says one thing to one audience, another thing to another audience, and it's excellent at doing the two-step. It never actually puts real pressure on North Korea. There's a charade. Right now they're turning ships with North Korean coal away. That'll be great until sometime a couple months from now when the ships start going again. We just don't know. It's too early. I hope this reflects a real Chinese change because, honestly, the next step for the United States is the very serious consideration of military force. If North Korea gets the capability to miniaturize a warhead, put it on an ICBM, and drop it on the United States, that's something we cannot tolerate.
But a military force, as you know, observers say, could be catastrophic. I mean, look, you have Seoul within artillery range, 28,500 of our troops, and North Korea has said that they will, quote, obliterate them, in their words. So how do you balance that? That if there is a response militarily by the U.S., you know, North Korea will say we have nothing to lose.
Look, for decades, the United States has been extraordinarily sensitive, and rightly so, to the position of innocent civilians in South Korea. But I think we need a very hard look at exactly what North Korea's capabilities are. All those artillery tubes just north of the DMZ, are we sure they all work, or have they turned into green cheese? And fundamentally, as North Korea gets visibly closer to being able to put a missile on target in the United States, the president has to calculate how much risk he's prepared for American civilians to bear as opposed to risks on the Korean Peninsula. It's very cold-blooded, but the president's responsibility is the safety of Americans.
And finally, Ambassador, what do you predict? How do you see this rolling out within the next, specifically, perhaps this next week?
Well, I think we've got to get serious with China about the end state once they put sufficient pressure on North Korea to end the nuclear program, because I don't think the regime is strong enough to survive. I've long believed that reunification of the peninsula is the answer. I think it is too narrow, too low a target simply to focus on the nuclear weapons. The North Korean regime will never be separated from it, and if there's an effort to do that, the regime will fight back. You have to look at the end of the North Korean regime through reunification.
Ambassador John Bolton, thank you for your analysis. Of course, we'll be reporting on this throughout the hour and the rest of the day here in the Fox News Channel. Thank you.